In this video, I'm going to talk about NVC's role in your immigrant visa journey. We'll talk about what does NVC do, how they process applications, what's the current status with cases at NVC, and also towards the end of the video, I'm going to focus on a few embassies, a few specific embassies. I'll tell you which cases they are processing and which embassies are getting immigrant visas at this moment. So make sure you watch this video until the end. We'll cover NVC and which embassies are processing immigrant visas at this time. So what are you waiting for? I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to our immigration channel. This is a place where you get the most up-to-date immigration news, immigration information, and everything else that you need to know to make your immigration journey less stressful. My name is Jacob Sapochnick, and I'm an immigration attorney located in San Diego, California. And we help clients all over the world with their immigration cases, people who are stuck overseas. This is the time to be informed and understand how things work, and that's why we're here. So in this video, I'm going to break down the role of NVC in your immigration journey. A lot of people understand that their case is the NVC. They don't understand why their case is there and what exactly NVC does. And so we'll talk about current backlog, give you a quick update, and finally, towards the end of the video, I'm going to cover a few embassies, and I'll tell you which embassies are processing immigrant visas at the moment and which documentary qualified dates they are working on right now. Like I said, we do this in different formats. In this format, I will include that at the end of this video because we continue to research more and more of these embassies, and we'll do another video that will cover even more embassies. So what are you waiting for? Let's jump right in. So what is the National Visa Center, also known as the NVC? The NVC is part of the State Department's Bureau of Consular Affairs. NVC serves as a clerical function to process all immigrant visas. Essentially, NVC is in charge of preparing immigrant visa applications for consular officers to be able to review and adjudicate. After the NVC receives an approved visa petition from the U.S. Immigration Service, they're going to work with you to complete even more documents to be able to send to the U.S. Embassy for your final interview. Their role is to make sure that all the paperwork that is received ultimately by the consular officer is properly completed and with all the supporting documents they need, so they don't waste their time at the end when they eventually adjudicate your interview. The idea is that once your visa application is actually sent to U.S. Embassy, it's all full and complete, and all they have to do is conduct the final interview and make a decision on your immigrant visa. So how does NVC actually work with embassies and consulates worldwide? Consular officers who interview applicants are required to review certain documents. A large part of NVC's job is to actually make sure that applicants gather all these documents, make sure they're completed correctly, and applicants provide all the supporting documents necessarily to qualify them for their immigrant visa. All these documents, all these forms must be completed before the interview. Why is it so important that you need to have this before the visa interview? Because if the consular officer at the time of the interview is missing a certain document, realizes the forms are not complete, realizes that there's no supporting document for some of these things, it's going to result in continuance of your interview. And if your interview is going to be continued, it's going to prolong the time when you're going to get your actual immigrant visa and when you're actually going to be able to see your family in the United States. Therefore, NVC's role is to do the following. They collect the immigrant visa fees, they review all the forms and all the documents submitted electronically to the NVC, schedule and send cases to the US embassies. Once applicants become documentary qualified, make sure that all the forms and all the documents are submitted correctly. They provide applicants with interview instructions and what they have to prepare before they go to the interview. And finally, once embassies and consulates are opening interview slots, NVC will send complete files to the respective embassy to conduct interviews. Now, if you remember in previous videos, I told you that the reason we have such a big backlog at NVC, over 530,000 cases are sitting at NVC right now, is because embassies and consulates are not opening slots to be able to receive those cases from the NVC. So while NVC is doing all the steps that I just described to you right now, they're not able to release those files and move on to other cases because these embassies are blocking them from receiving appointments. Currently, these embassies are not in capacity to take on interviews, and therefore these cases are sitting and being warehoused at the National Visa Center. So while they are still working, the National Visa Center has never stopped working, and they continue to work to this day. They are definitely at full capacity to the point where it is a crisis. So I mentioned in previous videos that there may be a move on the part of the State Department to slow down the rate of people that are getting documentary qualified, so they have enough time to catch up on the current applicants that are ready to go, get them processed, get them interviewed as embassies and consulates are going to be reopening, and then later on, as we get to the end of the year or even next year, start getting more people documentary qualified. This way they're going to slow down and ease the pressure at the NVC to be able to release more cases, to continue to send them to the embassies to start interviewing them. What is the benefit of NVC's work? NVC's role is to make sure that applicants are fully prepared for their interview for the first time and pass on the first time. The idea is that as long as the documents are complete and in order, there's no reason for them not to pass their interview unless the consular officer will determine that there's another reason for them not to pass. So as long as all the documents are being sent from NVC complete to the US Embassy, the likelihood of cases being rejected or rescheduled is really gets reduced. Therefore, their role is super important to be that buffer agency between USCIS immigration in the United States and the US embassies overseas. Another component of NVC's work is that it helps standardize immigrant visa applications worldwide. As long as they all go through the NVC and being distributed to all the different embassies, we know that the petitions, the immigrant visa petitions, are going to look the same throughout all the embassies in the world, no matter where you are being processed. The only thing that will be different is the processing times and when interviews will be scheduled, because that still depends on country conditions. But in terms of forms, in terms of processing, in terms of how cases are being submitted to these embassies and consulates, it's all standardized because it's coming from one place, it's coming from the NVC. So what happens after you submit your forms and documents to the NVC? After NVC receives electronically your paperwork, they will start reviewing these documents for accuracy and for any missing information. Remember that NVC's work is clerical in nature. They deal with forms, they deal with documents, they deal with supporting documents. And their role is to make sure that every case that leaves their facility is properly done and ready for an interview. Remember, it's very important to upload all documents to NVC at one time, because they review documents all in one time. And so if you're missing something, it's going to delay the review process on the NVC side, and it's going to result in your case being stuck and not documentary qualified. Once you've submitted everything and NVC is happy with all the documents and all the supporting documents, you'll receive an email from NVC stating that your case is now documentary qualified. That means that you're in line for your case to be sent to an embassy for an interview. Now remember, because of the pandemic crisis, we have so many cases that are stuck at NVC right now. And the reason that they are not being sent to all these embassies and consulates is because they are not opening interview slots for NVC to release those files. And as I mentioned to you before in other videos, typically a request will be sent to the NVC 30 days before an interview slot is open. So they know at least a month in advance which cases will be shipped to an embassy and which cases are not ready to go and they have to wait for their turn. NVC works on a first come, first served cases, depending on which cases were documentary qualified first. So now that you understand how NVC works, which I think answers a lot of questions from a lot of our YouTube channel viewers, and that's why I did this video, let's jump for a quick update about which embassies are scheduling interviews right now. Those are embassies that are now receiving cases from NVC on a limited capacity, but they're still receiving. Let's start with the US Embassy in Bangkok, Thailand. This embassy is processing IR1 and CR1 cases that were documentary qualified on March of 2020, and other preference cases like F2As, F2Bs, F4 preference categories that were documentary qualified in November of 2019. This embassy is working on a semi-regular capacity and is taking cases currently from the NVC. NVC is receiving notifications from Thailand 60 days in advance, and therefore they are able to send those cases and update applicants that their interviews are being scheduled. Next embassy is Lagos in Nigeria. Lagos in Nigeria is working on limited capacity. They are processing cases IR1 and CR1's immigrant petitions that were documentally qualified in October of 2020. Those applicants are getting interviews right now. Again, it's in a limited capacity under the 4-tier system, but they are receiving them. So for F2As, documentally qualified spouses of green card holders that are currently processing documentally qualified cases from January of 2020. All other family preferences, F4s, F3s, they're going back to November of 2019, and those cases are the ones that are being processed. Again, still limited capacity, but that's the information that we can report to you right now. Lagos, Nigeria. Embassy is the U.S. Embassy in Nepal. This embassy is processing limited capacity interviews from NVC, and they're working on documentally qualified cases from May of 2020 for F2A categories. For IR1, CR1, they're working on October of 2020 for immigrant visa interviews. That is the embassy, the U.S. Embassy in Nepal. Embassy is the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia. They're processing IR1 and CR1 cases that were documentally qualified in January of 2020, and they are getting interviews. This embassy may be reopening fully very soon, but they are definitely working on getting interviews for all 4-tier categories, including employment-based cases. But the report that we have to provide right now is for immigrant visa petitions, immediate relatives. They are working on January of 2020. Another update from the U.S. Embassy in Islamabad, Pakistan. Currently IR1, CR1 cases. We have a lot of clients in this embassy are anxious. They're currently processing cases from July and August of 2020 that were documentally qualified at NVC. NVC has been receiving notifications, again 30 days prior, from that embassy to send cases over there. They're not working full capacity, obviously, very, very slow. But if you are documentary qualified, July, August of 2020, there's a good chance you may be getting an interview. And if you're not, we still highly recommend to try to do an expedite with this particular embassy. They have been providing some good response. And with the update I provided in another video, the fact that they are prioritizing healthcare workers for emergency appointments, it's definitely worth a shot. Next, moving to the U.S. Embassy in Mumbai. They're currently processing documentally qualified IR1, CR1s that were documentally qualified in November of 2020. There's definitely been a lot of movement at that embassy. Even for preference employment-based cases, we're getting more people getting interviews there. While they're getting priority for immigrant visas for immediate relatives, they're also processing immigrant visas for employment-based cases. So if you are qualified and your priority is current, make sure you check with this embassy as soon as possible. So moving to the U.S. Embassy in Madrid, this U.S. Embassy is now processing IR1, CR1's cases that were documentally qualified in July, August of 2020. So we've seen definitely some good movement there. It's one of the more active embassies in Europe for applicants that are being qualified during those dates. They're getting interviews. Once again, we're going to make a video with many more embassies that we can go one by one and give you more updates as to who's working, who's not working, and who is actually getting their interviews at the moment. This was just a little bit of a quick update to summarize how NVC works and tell you what's happening with embassies at the moment and who is actually getting interviews. So once again, if you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos, and also give us a big like so YouTube will be able to share this video with more people just like you. Once again, if you need my help, send me a text, 619-483-4549. I'm here for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in our next video.